This is Seattle Real Estate Radio with your hosts, Christian Nossum and Dan Keller, mortgage expert with New American Funding. For the next hour, you'll learn impactful insider information as Christian and Dan teach about the ins and outs of Seattle's real estate market. Now, here's Christian and Dan.
Good afternoon and happy Monday. Today is going to be a fun day.
Yeah.
Well, first off, welcome back to Seattle Real Estate Radio on KKOL 1300. If this is your first time listening, we are on every Monday from 3 to 4, and we have a lot of fun. We talk about real estate, we talk about mortgages, and then we talk about some random stuff too.
Lots of randoms. Well, we do a lot, man. Yeah. We live life. We work. We do a lot of business together.
Yep.
Throw housewarming parties together on the weekends.
We're friends. So we got a lot of stuff to talk about. But
we do.
It's not boring real estate stuff. We talk about fun stuff.
Fun stuff. So if this is your first time listening, I'm Dan Keller, co-host. I am the mortgage professional, the mortgage expert. They say that I'm supposed to say, but I don't like calling myself an expert, but I'll take it.
Yeah, exactly. And I am Christian Nossum. I am a real estate agent here in Seattle.
The best.
Yeah, well, some say.
No, today I'm really excited. This is a segment that, you and I have been asked to put together, to put on. And every day when we go to work, when we meet new clients, we meet with new clients, we get asked a lot of the questions that we're going to discuss today. What the market's doing. Is there a bubble in the future? What are rates doing? Are they going up? Are they going down? All of these things.
Are there some myths?
Are they myths? Yeah. And I can't blame them. A lot of our clients, well, I don't want to speak for you, but a lot of your buyer clients are millennials.
Oh, yeah.
And what are they coming off of? They're coming off of seeing these kids. I call them kids because I'm 40, but these kids are 24 to 28 years of age. They're coming off of seeing mom and dad maybe lose their home, lose their retirement.
Or issues from the Great Recession.
Issues from 2004 to 2008. So, they're skeptical about the home buying process. And one of the things that, obviously one of the reasons why we have this show is to educate and inform. So, today's broadcast is going to cover a lot of those myths. We're going to go into our year in review. I'm really excited. It's December. And we get to talk about a phenomenal year. I had a great year. I know you had a great year.
It was really good.
Yeah, it was fun.
I had fun.
Yeah.
A lot of fun. Helped a lot of people.
Yep.
Yeah.
Met a lot of new people. So year in review, and then, what to expect next in 2016.
We'll throw out our predictions, our educated guesses for 2016. And I'm kind of excited about that. I've been doing a lot of research, reading a lot of things, trying to figure out, what are the so-and-so called experts and gurus saying, and kind of give my spin on it based on what I see and what I hear and what I'm doing.
When you've been doing this for some time, and I don't have a 20-year history in this industry. I actually got in after the crash. So I got in 2009 and 2009.
And I've been doing this for over a decade now.
And you have. But you've seen trends. You've seen the market collapse, crash, and you saw it recover. And it took, 4 or 5 years for it to kind of recover. And then we're on the uptick now. Over the last couple of years, we've rebounded, recovered, and it's moving up. So, one of the great things about this show is we're able to give our day-to-day, I call it in the trenches perspective of what's happening, what happened, what's happening, and what we think 2016 will bring.
Yeah. So first, I kind of want to go over some of the myths that people were kind of talking about and that people asked me all the time last year or this past year in 2015. So one of them, and I'm going to go on you because this is all on you, it's so tough to get a loan right now. The paperwork is so challenging. Is that true? What's the deal?
Yeah, it's great that and you're normally real estate agents are always on the front line when it comes to lending because you meet the buyer, you meet the potential home buyer, you meet the seller that you're listing their home and they're going to go purchase another and maybe they haven't purchased in 10 or 15 or 20 years.
Yep.
And so all they have to go off of is the media.
Yep.
And
what they're hearing their friends say.
And what they're hearing their friends say. And you know what? Here's the thing, Christian. If Mr. and Mrs. Smith, your clients, Mr. and Mrs. Smith's friends, had a horrible experience with a large lender, one of the big four. I'm not going to name names. I don't want to give them any credit because they don't deserve it. But if they had a poor experience getting a mortgage at one of the large banks, that's not a reflection necessarily of the industry. I say this all the time. That's the reflection of your choice to choose a lender. You know, you have a choice.
Yeah.
And what I tell my clients, what I tell my real estate professionals, when you recommend me, and you do a fantastic job doing this, it's not selling them on why they should use
Not at all.
me. This is why I recommend Dan.
Well, because the way that I do it is I lay it out. I say, here's what happens if you go with one of the big four. And here's what happens if you go with a local mortgage broker.
Yeah.
Or lender, whatever you want to call yourself. Mortgage expert.
Banker. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's kind of how I do it. And I just explain the pros and cons, and it's usually pretty cut and dry.
Well, everybody wants a deal. And that's the thing. Everybody wants a deal. And in mortgage, your deal is rate, and your deal is fees. Points. Okay. So when I talk to clients, I'm transparent, and you see this in working with me in the videos that I do. Transparency is huge, Christian. So you can get service, you can pay for service, or you can pay for a deal.
Yeah, exactly.
It's one or the other. You don't get both. You don't get both. So
is it tough to get a loan?
Is it tough? So yes, if you're working with. Yes, it's tough. Bottom line, what I send out to all my clients is a Forbes article. You've heard of Forbes magazine.
Yep.
It's a credible.
Kind of popular.
It's kind of popular. And it basically what it explains, Christian, is what you need. And this is, instead of me saying, here's what we need, which I'm going to tell you what we need.
Yep.
But it's a Forbes publication saying this is what you need to get a mortgage today. And then it goes a little step further and says the former Fed chairman, Ben Bernanke, that helped put a lot of these guidelines in place.
Yep.
He tried to refinance a home last year and was declined. So it's, the whole idea, is it tough to get a loan right now?
I'd say yes and no.
Yes and no.
I mean, it is, but it's also not. I mean, people are doing it every day.
Follow the guidelines, follow the direction that you get from your lender, follow it to a T, don't try to take shortcuts, and it's not any tougher than it's always been.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I know one of the questions I get asked all the time is it impossible to get a house in this market? And the answer obviously is no, it's not impossible. Look at it. You're seeing sold signs go up all the time. Obviously, people are buying homes left and right. So no, it's not impossible.
Yeah.
You can do it. You just need to have the right strategy. You need to have the right team helping you, and you need to be prepared, and you can do it. And
well, we do the homebuyer class, right? And I speak at homebuyer classes often. And what I get, Christian, is questions. I get real estate questions because it's less confrontational. People, I don't want to ask a realtor, so I'm going to ask you. And so the questions that I get are, I heard that there's no inventory, or I heard that, because I don't have 20% down. So why don't you talk about that? Because they don't have all cash or 20% down. Is it tougher to get your offer accepted? Is it tougher to buy a home?
Yeah, and I'd say yes and no. I mean, you really got to set yourself up. Really, the answer is no. You don't have to have all cash. You don't have to have 20% down. You can get a house with 3.5% down, which is pretty crazy, but it's true. Even in this market, it's a little bit harder, and you got to put yourself out there a little bit more, but you can definitely do it. You can do it. There's definitely ways. I'm getting clients to do it all the time. Obviously, other agents are as well, because people are selling homes left and right. So,
I use this example all the time, Christian, and I know you do it just in a little bit different words. We've funded hundreds of transactions. By doing that, you get experience. By doing that, there isn't really anything we haven't encountered. So take our experience, listen to us, follow it, and you got a better chance of winning.
Yeah, exactly. And that's really the truth. I mean, if you're going to hire someone, hire an expert. Hire an expert that you're going to trust, and then listen to them.
Yep.
Because obviously you hired them for a reason. Follow their lead. They know what's going on. Don't try and outsmart them.
Yeah, I'm personal, totally off subject right now. I've got a daughter. She's going to be turning 10 next month.
Nice. Yes.
And she's gotten really into volleyball. She's taken on volleyball. And I know nothing about volleyball, Christian. I was a baseball player. I played baseball, basketball, right? And I actually coached college baseball at a high level. And the one thing that I know is that for Allie, if I want to help her the best, I'm going to hire a coach that knows how to train the fundamentals in volleyball, developing volleyball players.
Yep.
I'm going to hire her, and I'm going to tell my daughter to listen to her.
Exactly.
It's the same thing.
Yep.
You hire an
Exact same
expert,
thing.
you work with an expert, and you're going to learn. It's a shortcut to the finish line.
Well, it's the same with other people. That's why they hire someone to help them out with stocks and portfolios and their investments in that regard.
Yeah.
It's the same exact thing. You hire an expert, you listen to them, you're going to succeed if you follow their advice.
If you follow it.
And if you hired the right person.
Yeah.
So you just got to do your research up front and make sure you're going to be happy with them.
So 2015 summer, let's summarize what we were just talking about. So you're in kind of looking back at some of the myths of 2015. Tough to get a loan.
Tough to get a house.
Tough to get a house. We kind of dispelled that. Follow the script, follow the directions, and you can certainly succeed.
You're going to be okay.
You're going to be okay. I wanted to talk with you about this. You know, a lot of these myths are generated online and by the media. What do you tell your clients when they're focusing and when they're starting to ask you certain things, when certain questions come up and you're like, geez, man, this is like the third question in a row. Clearly you're scared to death. You're paranoid of something. What is your best advice to people that come to you with those myths and concerns?
Well, you know, a lot of times if it's the same type of question all the time, then obviously they are in a position where they need to learn and be educated on whatever that topic is so that they don't have that fear, so that they don't have those regrets if they were to make a choice. All that's telling me is that they have a fear of something. I just need to figure out what that is, help them understand and learn so that they don't have that fear anymore.
Wow.
I mean, it's as easy as that.
Yep.
You just break it down.
Yep.
So whatever the issue is, let's figure out what that issue is that you have and address it.
Okay.
Let's teach you. Let's educate you. Let's get you up to speed.
Got it.
Yeah. And a lot of these myths, too, I mean, they're coming from, like you were saying, they're coming from online, from Facebook, Twitter.
A bad experience.
But they're also coming from the water cooler at work, you know?
Yeah.
People are at work and they're going, man, I've made 8 offers and I have not gotten an offer accepted yet. This market is tough.
Yeah.
It sucks. I'm going to quit.
Yeah.
I'm just going to rent. This is just not going to work. And I think that's where a lot of it comes from. But, you know, maybe those people need to look at who they've hired and see if maybe they didn't make the right choice
and
up
who
front.
they're getting that advice from, too.
Exactly.
That's big. I always ask that. So who had a bad experience? Yeah. Be careful who you get your advice from. But
Exactly.
Good stuff, man. 2015 was a great year, and I look forward to learning more about what's to come. So, hey, when we get back, we are going to talk to Christian and talk about the Seattle housing market. Stay tuned.
You're listening to Seattle Real Estate Radio with your hosts, Christian Nossum and Dan Keller. We'll be right back. Time for more Seattle Real Estate Radio with your hosts, Christian Nossum and Dan Keller.
All right, hey, welcome back to Seattle Real Estate Radio. This is Dan Keller, and this is actually my favorite part of the show.
Oh, you say that every week.
Single week, man. I love to learn, and I'm learning about this as well. I mean, I take your updates and apply it every single day. So tell us a little about the Seattle housing market in your Market Minute.
All right. So today I am actually going to talk a little bit about, not necessarily the market because it's still kind of hot, but what I'm going to talk about more is open houses and how they are, or how they have, in my opinion, made a huge comeback. Okay. So to give you a little history, open houses used to be, as a real estate agent, they were not for the seller that we were representing to market their home necessarily. They were a way for real estate agents to attempt to get additional buyer business. So that was kind of the way people were, they were looking at it as a lead generation tool, a way to get buyers. Even though they represent the seller on that home, the buyer's probably not going to buy that house. They want to use that buyer to help them buy another house. So that's how agents were using them. That has kind of gone out the window. Maybe it's there somewhat, but that's not at all how I use them. How I use them is you got to utilize the fact that everyone's looking online now. 90+% of people look online for homes. So if your agent is not putting your home, not doing an open house and not putting it on, or not listing that open house online, they're wasting their time.
Wow.
They might as well not even show
Yeah.
up, because no one's going to show up other than people that randomly drive by and see the open house signs with the arrows pointing them to come in.
Yeah.
You need to have your home listed everywhere online, first of all, when it's getting marketed, but also the open house needs to be online. And it's such a big deal now that there are so many buyers. I know a lot of my buyers, they're like, I don't want to bother you on the weekend. I know you're busy. We're not super duper duper serious, so we're just going to go hit up open houses. But they only know to hit up open houses if they're listed online. So you really got to do this, and it's very important.
Wow.
So as an agent, if you're listening, which I know some do, trying to get tips from us, which is kind of funny,
Yeah.
but make sure you're putting it in the MLS. Putting it in the Northwest MLS, because that will populate on Redfin and Estately and
The
all
big ones that own the internet. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you got to put them in manually on Zillow and Trulia and all those sites that don't pull
Wow.
data directly.
Game
So-
changer, Christian. So, yeah, the game's changed over the last few years. And even, I appreciate you bringing that to our listeners' attention, my attention. I didn't realize that there's been that big of a shift.
I think it's a huge shift. I've noticed where if I'm have a buyer that's really interested in a house and they don't have an open house and they're only on the market for a week, so they're on Wednesday to Wednesday or something like that, maybe 5-6 days. They don't have an open house that one weekend that they're still on the market, they get fewer offers. This is just my opinion. I have no data to back this up.
Sure.
This is just my opinion. This is what I have seen.
Trend.
I know when I do an open house, it's usually slammed, and the house has multiple offers, and it's gone in a week, and it sells for a lot more.
Yeah.
So-
I've been asked to co-host open houses before, as a lender, to have a financing resource there. And one of it's awkward when somebody walks into an open house. So one of the things that I always say is just, hey, how'd you hear about the open house today? And you're right, man. Saw it online.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
Yeah, really? Yeah. Saw it online.
Yeah.
So you're right.
Or they're using whatever app they're comfortable with. Pretty much all the good ones say there's an open house nearby.
Yeah, there's a tag on it. Yep.
Exactly. Go check it out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great info. Not much about the housing market per se, but what the market's
it is
doing
at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great stuff, man.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
So what I want to do now is I really want to talk about you and the market, the mortgage side of the market in 2015, because I want to. This is our year in review show.
Yeah.
I want to go over what's going on and what happened, and then maybe next segment we can go into what are we predicting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so,
absolutely.
so Dan, let's take a closer look at what actually happened on the mortgage side in 2015. So, what did rates do? Give us a little history so that we can actually educate people on what happened.
Yeah.
So, from January to December, where we are now,
Yep.
what did rates do?
I need to take a step back and go back to last December. Okay.
Okay.
Last December, rates were up in the mid 4s. Okay. And there was no really indication that rates were going to drop. We got into end of December, New Year-ish, and we saw a massive drop in rates. Totally unexpected. There was a big.
remember that.
You remember that. And then what a lot of the economists were saying near the end of 2014 was that, and Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, the big boys were saying expect 5.5% 30-year fixed in 2015. And so while we were happy with 4.625, 4.5 30-year fixed at the end of 2014, we did not expect what happened in January. And what happened in January was just, we saw a 0.5 percentage point, maybe even a little bit more, a drop in rates. Now, it was very, very, very short-lived. It was January, maybe for 3 weeks in the midst of January, and then they trended back up into the low 4s. But what we saw in 2015 was, I know you talk about in real estate the bell curve. We really didn't see much of a bell curve. We saw more of a couple of spikes where they spiked up, came back down. So if you were to imagine this, imagine that interest rates were at about, or imagine an interest rate at about 4.25 on a 30-year fixed rate. Imagine that going up to a ceiling of about 4.3 to 4.5% in 2015.
Okay.
And then imagine the floor. So I talk a lot daily about floors and ceilings. Floors are what is a support. Ceiling is something that either pushes you down or you break through it. So our ceiling in 2015 was approximately 4.375 to 4.5, and I'm using just generic, 30-year fixed, good credit, 20% down payment. Okay. And then the floor was about 3.75, 3.875. Not a bad range. In some of the years past, we've seen a lot bigger ranges. Huge ranges. And so that's kind of, as far as rates are concerned, that's what it did. But I want to focus on what happened throughout the year. And every time we touched that ceiling of about 4.375 to 4.5, we came down every single time. And so basically what the economy did in 2015 is it spoke to the markets. And it basically said, we're not ready. We're not ready for 4.5 or higher. And every time we got to that point, Christian, it bounced back down. And, I study this stuff on a daily basis. I need to be in the know for my clients. And there are a lot of factors that led to that. The big one is, and I talk about this a lot, Christian, is GDP, the gross domestic product. Now, the average listener has maybe heard of that. But doesn't know.
They don't track it.
They don't track it, and they don't know what it necessarily means. Here's the thing. I always talk about this, dumbing it down. I do this for myself and for my clients. The gross domestic product report is the number one economic indicator in America.
Wow.
So it's the number one indicator of great or poor economic health. And we're at about a 2% GDP. We need a 5% GDP to basically say we're average or we're sustaining a decent average. Not great, not bad. So we're not even there yet.
Wow.
So that's played a big role. And then employment. National employment numbers are not great. So, we saw a few weeks ago where we saw some good employment numbers. And what happened? Rates went up as a result. And then we've got the kind of the big pink elephant in the room all year is, what is the Fed chairman or Fed chairwoman, Janet Yellen, going to do with the Fed funds rate? And just the speculation of that either going up or staying the same. I mean, we're giving away free money right now, Christian, and it can't last for much longer. So, anyways,
and that's kind of a good thing for people to remember, too. Money is essentially free right now. It's
really
insane.
Cheap. Look at gas, Christian.
I know.
Everything. I mean, it's very, very cheap. So, year in review with rates, that's it. We saw a really tight margin.
Not a big difference between the floor and the ceiling. Okay. Well, that's good to know. So tell us a little bit about the guidelines. So did it actually get tougher or easier, or what's going on with guidelines in general?
No, that's a really good question. That's a really good topic that I like to always focus on the positive. Guidelines, the mortgage industry in general has this misconception, which we talked about earlier, about it being very difficult to qualify for a mortgage. And I don't want to say it's easy because I don't want to give people the wrong impression, Christian, that it shouldn't be easy. Nothing big is easy.
The bubble proved that easy is not the way it should be, because that was easy. That was too easy. That was, you have a heartbeat, you can get a loan. That's not the way it should be.
I ask my clients this all the time. Okay, Christian, I'm going to come to you. We're really good friends. I want to buy a house.
Cool.
Would you loan me $500,000, please?
No.
How about $20,000 for a car? Exactly. You see what I'm saying? And so when people start looking at it through those eyes, through that perspective, you're asking a bank. What are you saying? That you don't respect the bank to loan you the money? I mean, like I would respect you?
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's you're making the largest financial decision or transaction, one of them, of your life. It shouldn't be easy.
No.
So yes,
you should have to prove that you have a job, that you make money, that you can afford it.
Some skin in the game.
And that's why the market's not in a bubble, in my opinion. But we can go about that later.
We'll talk about the bubble side of it in a minute. But, I think from a guideline standpoint, 2015 was healthy. We saw Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, which they govern the conventional side of lending. We saw them loosen up a little. And so, one of the things that they did is they allowed move-up buyers. So
I wanted to talk to you about this.
Yeah, do you want to talk about it now? I mean, I probably need a little bit more time. We don't have a ton now, but we saw Fannie Mae loosen up some guidelines. Well, let's talk about that in a little bit. But that was a big positive. We saw FHA lower their credit requirements. So this I'm not proud of necessarily, but you can you can get an FHA or VA mortgage with a 580 credit score right now. So one of the big myths we talked about early on is that you needed a 640. You needed a good credit score to buy a home.
Yep.
No,
Not
you
at
really,
all.
yeah. So I mean, obviously, you need to show a few other. If you have a 580 credit score, a 600, for example, you need to show a very low debt to income ratio. You may need to have some. Well, with VA, it's a zero down program. With FHA, you're going to need to show a 3.5% down payment. So we saw a couple of different programs loosen up in 2015, which is always a good sign.
So just real quick, if you got a loan or you refied in 2015, was that a good move?
It was a good move. Yeah. But here's the thing. We're coming off of 3 or 4 years where rates have been in the threes. So if you got a loan in 2015, you're set for the next 30 years. You're set.
Yeah. So if you say you got a HELOC and it's a variable rate, but your lender has the option of locking in that rate.
Keep an eye on the Fed funds rate over the next, 3 to 6 to 12 months. If it starts moving, you can call your bank right away and lock that in.
Yeah. No, that's really good info.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you, Dan.
Got it, man.
So after the break, we're going to get Dan's Mortgage Minute, which we just talked about the crazy market, but we're going to get his Mortgage Minute, and we will be right back after the break.
Seattle Real Estate Radio with your hosts, Christian Nossum and Dan. We're back with Seattle Real Estate Radio with your hosts, Christian Nossum and Dan Keller.
Hello, and welcome back to Seattle Real Estate Radio on KKOL 1300 AM. Now, real quick, it is time for Dan's Weekly Mortgage Minute. So what's going on, Dan?
I see that hint real quick.
Yeah, real quick,
tight.
because I want to talk.
Yeah,
I got some stuff I want to say. So
We got a lot to talk about with you. So, Mortgage Minute this week.
Yeah.
I want to, again, we're wrapping up the year. I spent a lot of time talking about what rates and what everything, what guidelines may have done in 2015. What I want to talk about right now for the next minute is something that I'm doing with a lot of my clients.
Okay.
And, our producer asked me before the show to talk about this in this segment. You can get a mortgage through a very large bank or credit union. You're one of millions.
Yeah.
Okay. You're one of
Very true.
millions. You're done. They're going to market to you and want your money there and auto loans, car loans, etc. Or you can work for the same rate, the same fee, the same cost. There's no difference. You can work with a local mortgage professional like myself. Okay. And what I do, you get that personalized touch, if you will. What I do with every single one of my clients, I do what's called an annual mortgage review.
Annual bear hug.
Annual bear hug, a virtual bear hug. Well, I wouldn't even say it's virtual because I get together with
We do see
probably
them
about
a lot of
50% of
times.
them. Yeah. Some of them just want to do it over the phone or at night or, over
busy.
email.
They
They're
gotta be
busy.
busy,
I
but
get
they-
it.
yeah.
So here it is, Christian, an annual mortgage review. And if you're listening, I want you, if you have a mortgage, I want you to think back and see if your lender has ever done this. It's super valuable.
Probably not.
Well, you never know. There's some great, there's some
No,
great
there
lenders
are.
out there.
There are.
Yeah, you never know. I learned this from another lender about 4 years ago, and it's made a huge impact in my business and with my clients. So what my annual mortgage review does, Christian, one, I pull your credit. And people are like, I don't want you pulling. Listen, you want me pulling your credit. It's not going to hurt your scores. You've already bought your mortgage. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull your credit, and I'm going to look for two things. One, signs of identity theft or fraud. Okay? It's huge.
Yeah.
We've caught stuff like that before for clients by just doing an annual mortgage review.
And I'm sure they did not mind that you pulled their credit.
Do you know what it costs to fight identity theft? You have to hire an attorney. It takes a lot of time and a lot of money. So this is a valuable.
Yeah.
Your credit score might drop a point or two by me doing this. Okay. Big
Which,
deal.
if you're not utilizing your credit at that exact moment to try and get a loan for something, it does not matter.
It doesn't matter.
It goes back up.
Yep. And it's free, so we pay for that.
Nice.
The
Wow.
second thing I do, Christian, is I look at all your revolving debt, and I put together a household blended debt analysis. So
Tell me about that real quick.
So basically, we take all the interest rates and all your debt, and say, hey, listen, you're paying 19% or not 19. Listen, 13%. That's a lot.
You have horrible credit.
Well, no, some credit cards have high
that's
interest
true,
rates, but you're paying your blended debt ratio is 13%. You could go get a HELOC right now,
Which is a home equity line of credit.
line of credit for no charge at 3.99%. I don't sell those, but I can refer you to someone.
Exactly.
So it's a suggestion.
Yep.
And then the third thing, what I do is I run an AVM report, much like I do with refinances, which kind of gives them a ballpark idea
what their house
of what
is
their
worth.
home is worth.
Yeah.
So now they know how their investment's performing. They know that they're not, they're protected from identity theft. And if there's some advice to give financially, I'm a resource. And then at that point in time, I can refer them to a financial planner. I can refer them back to their real estate professional to get more information on their home equity. If we got a ton of equity, maybe it's time to sell.
Yeah, maybe it's time to move up. Maybe it's time to keep it as an investment.
That's it.
Something else.
Yeah, move on.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, I wanted to talk about that today, an annual mortgage review and how valuable that has been to my clients.
Wow. Well, thank you. I think that's very valuable. So thanks a lot, Dan.
You got it, brother. Okay, so one of the things that now we're going to transition out of mortgage,
Talking to me.
real estate, and this is, again, I'm really, really intrigued with this info. But
I got some good stuff.
you got some good
I've prepped
stuff.
a lot.
Well, you've prepped a lot. I know the research you've put in. I see all your data in front of you right now, and I'm confused by the spreadsheets already. But what I wanted to do is, we talked about the mortgage 2015 in review.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Seattle real estate market in review.
Okay. 2015 review.
2015, and I know it's been crazy. We've talked about that before,
Yep.
so we don't need to spend a ton of time talking about necessarily that. But what I want to know is, tell us really, how hot was the market from a numbers standpoint, and what our listeners need to know about, hey, what happened this last year?
Yeah. Well, it was crazy. It was very intense for certain months. I'd say from April all the way through September, and probably April, maybe even March.
Yeah.
That's when February, March, when it really, really picked up. But all the way through September, it was just insane. Multiple offers on everything, and not just one or two, but like 10 to 20. We had one that had 34.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just insane. And so it was hard. It was really hard. And but it was also a lot of fun. But people were doing tons of pre-inspections. There were bidding wars everywhere. Homes were going for way over asking price. It was kind of,
Which that scared a lot of people. I'm not gonna kid you. People would come into my office and they'd want to talk about the financing and the process that they're going through right now, and they're like, I'm worried that we're going to offer $675 and we're going to escalate it up to $770 or $750, for example. And so that could be kind of scary.
Yeah, and I totally understand, and that's where, that's a conversation that I have to have with every single buyer, and I do. Yeah. Before we start, I go, okay, well, what's your price range? Okay, well, in this price range, this is what's going on. It's in your price range between your numbers, for instance, that you just used in that example, the $6 to $750 range. There were multiple offers on pretty much everything. Yeah, and they were generally going up $75,000 or so. Yeah. So people, I would have to set their expectations when they're doing their searches online. Hey, only look up to, if the top of your market is $750, don't look at anything over $675. Yeah. There's no point. Yeah. Because it could potentially go 75 over. Yeah. And so that's kind of how we had to do it.
So how do you address that? Hey, I'm worried about this. How did you address this in 2015? Hey, I'm worried that we're going to offer this and have to escalate up to, $760, for example. Is that house even worth it at that point?
Well, yeah. And what we do, and this is what I do with everyone when they're making an offer and there's crazy escalations and stuff, I educate them on the market. I go, all right. And I just did this yesterday with a client, actually. I went, okay, well, take out your phone. I'll tell you the address. I'll show you. We'll drive by. You don't have to do it driving by. We just happen to be in the same neighborhood. Drove by, pointed out, all right, well, that house right there, here's the photos online. We're sitting in front of the house. That house right there sold for $940 last whatever month. I don't remember what month it was, October or something like that. I don't know exactly how many offers, but I could easily call the agent, the listing agent, say, hey, on this listing of yours you had back in October, how many offers did you get? And that's kind of what I do. I just do some intel. And I go, all right, well, you had 8 offers. The one that won had 10% down or 20% down, and whatever the specifics were. Wow. So you just kind of do that and educate them on the process.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So this is the kick. This is what I love about some of the data and the research that you've put together. As far as list price versus sale price. So this is a stat that I personally have followed in the past to kind of take the temperature, if you will, on certain markets and what to expect in certain neighborhoods. Yeah. Talk to us about that real quick.
All right. This is kind of where the fun happens. So some of the most popular neighborhoods in Seattle, I'm going to break it down, Seattle and East Side.
Okay.
So Seattle, take a while. I'm going to ask you, what neighborhood do you think had the biggest sales to or list to sales price increase?
Wallingford, Fremont area.
Yep, you're right on.
Am I right?
Yeah, so it's not Wallingford. Well, it is Wallingford.
Yeah.
It's Wallingford, Green Lake, Fremont. That's exactly right.
favorite
Zip
areas.
code is 98103.
Yeah,
yeah.
love it.
They had a. Oops, that's the wrong one. They had a 105.3%.
Wow.
So basically, every listing on average sold for over 5.3% over asking. That's pretty intense.
Good, man.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
move us over to the east side.
well, I'm going to say real quick,
Yeah.
in all of Seattle, the only neighborhood to not go over 100% was Pioneer Square, which is interesting.
Yeah,
I mean,
very
there's
interesting.
it's kind of a small sample size there because
Yeah.
there's not a lot of condos. That's
Yeah.
all there is there,
Yeah.
and they're kind of older.
Yeah.
But it was at 99.2%.
Wow.
Yeah. But basically, the top three neighborhoods in Seattle for sale to list price was the Fremont, Green Lake, Sandpoint, View Ridge, Ravenna, that area. Or no, Fremont, Green Lake. Then next up, tied actually, was the Maple Leaf, Wedgwood, View Ridge, Ravenna, Sandpoint. And then third was North Ballard, Crown Hill, kind of that
Yeah.
area. Not the downtown Ballard where Market Street is and all the cool restaurants and stuff. It was just north of that. So that was the 98117 zip code.
Okay.
So kind of basically North Seattle on both the east and the west side of I-5. That's the hottest market.
That is.
Which makes
Wow.
sense because that's where everybody wants to be.
And that's where you're at.
That is where I'm at.
That is.
I
Okay.
bought in the hottest market.
You did.
Good for me.
Yeah. Now, help us out with the understanding
So the east
across
side,
the water.
Yeah, so east side, the top areas was basically in Bellevue, south of I-90. So we're talking, it's kind of not all Bellevue, but Cougar Mountain, Eastgate, Factoria, Lakemont, Newport Hills, Somerset. Those were the areas, and they were at 101.5%. So it was a little cooler on the east side,
Yep.
which that's the general sense that I always had of the market over there as well. Just below that was Redmond. So we're talking like downtown Redmond, Education Hill, Avondale, right where Microsoft is.
Yeah, yeah.
And the third one was East Bellevue, kind of West Lake Sammamish, that area.
So, question. Microsoft East Side, Amazon, Google,
Yep.
Seattle. Think that had anything to do with...
Big time. Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty much probably the biggest driving force.
right now.
Yeah.
Love it, love it, love it.
Yep.
Okay, I gotta talk about we gotta try to wrap this up in the next minute or so. I want to talk about what home prices did in 2015, appreciation wise. I know this stinks to kind of bundle up into a whole, but talk about the Seattle market.
So basically in Seattle, and we're talking all of the Seattle
yeah.
area,
Yeah.
prices increased 7.6% in 2015.
Okay.
So basically, if you had a $500,000 house, it went up $38,000. Not too bad. Not too bad at all. And that's still 4% lower than we were at the peak
Yeah.
for the nation is at 12% lower than it was at the peak. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, Seattle's up there. Yep. Yeah, and this is difficult too because you're covering Seattle as a whole. We've got niches that you were just talking about. Certain
That's
areas,
all neighborhood driven.
Yeah,
but yeah.
Some neighborhoods were in the teens.
Oh, yeah,
which-
easy.
Yeah.
So the single family houses, they went up, average price went from $447 to $480. And then condos, they actually made the biggest jump. And that was mostly driven because they don't have as many condos that actually sold this last year. So they went from $228 to $265. So we got to take a quick break. Stay tuned because once we're back, we are going to give our predictions for 2016.
You're listening to Seattle Real Estate Radio with your hosts, Christian Nossum and Dan Keller. We'll be right back. We're back with Seattle Real Estate Radio with your hosts, Christian Nossum and Dan Keller.
All right. Hey, welcome back to Seattle Real Estate Radio. This is Dan Keller. And wow, that was a lot of good information. I didn't I don't even think we made it through half of the
didn't
bullet
get all
points.
through it, yeah.
No,
That's
and
all right.
I was struggling at the end to even ask you another question because there's so much to look at. Christian, but let me summarize this. It looks like the Seattle market obviously did quite well in 2015.
Yeah.
Nationally, though, are we ahead?
Nationally, we're killing it.
Yeah.
It's kind of insane how much better we are. So like I said last segment, we're 4% lower than we were at the peak, but the nationwide, they're 12% lower than the peak.
Wow.
So we're just killing it. And the reason why we're outpacing the nation, we have such a good market. We just have tons of jobs, tons of high-paying jobs.
Yeah.
People moving in. Way more people are moving in than moving out.
Yeah.
And that's driving up supply and demand. And that's why it's so out of whack. That's why rents are skyrocketing. That's why prices of homes are skyrocketing. We just have a strong economy.
Yeah. I read a study the other day, and I mean, I don't have a source, and I don't. It's from a fairly credible source. But top 4 in the nation, the Seattle market, the employment market.
I think I actually had that as one of my bullet points.
Top 4.
Yep.
So yeah, well, I mean that's huge. I think what I want to focus on now for the remainder of the show is 2016 and what's to come.
Yeah. No, and I think that's true. So, Dan, why don't you give me a little heads up? What do you think mortgages are going to do? What's the mortgage market going to do in 2016?
Yeah. I mean, that's a tough question because if I were to come out and say, hey, this is what I think they're going to do, I'm going to be wrong. I mean, everybody thought they were going to go up in 2015. So what I'd rather not do, I call it the crystal ball. Geez, if I had a crystal ball, I could tell you. So
we'd all be rich.
We would. But here's the other thing. Every client that I get in touch with right now, obviously, at the end of the
we're at the end of the year.
Hey, what are rates going to do in 2016?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. But what I can tell you is based off the economic data that we have that I study currently every single day and what the markets are doing, I can tell you that without a very, very positive economy, rates are not going to go anywhere. And again, rates are not based on just the Seattle marketplace. It's national and it's actually global.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it's not just the U.S. anymore. It's all global, like we've talked about numerous times on this show.
Yep. And there's 2 ways to approach this. One, I advise all my clients to focus on hyper local data. That's why we do the show.
Yep.
That's why we blog. That's why we do what we do.
Why we focus on it.
It's what's happening in our area.
Yep.
It's what jobs, and rates. Now on the other side of it, rates are now attached to national and global news. So the combination of the two, this is what I tell my clients. If you're happy with your budget, meaning purchasing a home at this price with this payment based off of current national rates, make a move.
Yeah, exactly. And that's basically what I tell people too, essentially.
Yeah.
It's like, this is a good time to do it.
Yep.
If it makes sense financially for you, if you're comfortable with the payments, go
Make a
for
move.
it. Do it.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, you can waste time and you can speculate and you can wait for the right opportunity, or you can take advantage of a great opportunity.
You can get the good old analysis by paralysis. Or paralysis by analysis.
Paralysis
That's how
by
you say
analysis.
it.
Yeah.
You just get stuck in it.
Yep. So what I'd like to focus on, instead of, hey Dan, what are rates doing in 2016? I'd like to focus more on kind of the positive. What I know for a fact will happen in 2016 is loosening credit guidelines, meaning it will become easier to purchase a home.
Nice.
Okay. So we talked briefly earlier about Fannie Mae.
Yep.
Loosening their guidelines. Now I get to spend a minute or two on what that actually means. So, Christian, let's say, you do. You own a home. You're a homeowner.
I do.
And let's say that you go and you try to get pre-approved for a mortgage, and you do not qualify for a new mortgage based on keeping your existing home, and you can't sell that before you purchase another home.
Because I need to live there.
Because you need to live there.
Yep.
So what they're going to do, and good luck in a competitive market, writing a contingent offer, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So what most clients have to do is they have to sell their home in advance to qualify. The other thing is we've got a lot of first-time home buyers that came into the market over the last 3 to 5 years. And what Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac's trying to encourage is first-time home buyers that got in to be move-up buyers. Okay.
So how are they doing that?
So they're doing it such that in the past, they would have to sell that home to eliminate that mortgage debt.
Okay, that makes sense.
Pre-bubble, 10 years ago, you could buy another home and get a lease agreement for
said. And I've done this.
Yeah, you've done it before. You could get a lease agreement for, let's say your mortgage payment was $3,000 a month, you could get a lease agreement for $2,500 a month, and that $2,500 a month could offset that $3,000 mortgage.
Yep.
Well, they did away with that to prevent buy and bail strategies. A lot of people were doing that.
Yep.
Well,
They were doing that, then letting the house go back to
let
foreclosure.
the house that was underwater go back to
Got
foreclosure.
it.
So they removed the equity and the guidelines that were in place that prevented that. So now you can qualify for another mortgage with a lease agreement and a deposit with first month's rent.
Wow.
So
that's
huge.
huge.
That is huge for move-up buyers. So we're going to see more things like that, credit scoring. We're going to see things that I don't need to talk about right now, but underwriting criteria loosening up.
Okay. Cool. Well, thank you, Dan. That's good stuff.
Yep.
I know you totally skipped the question that I actually asked you, but good job on that because you gave a really good answer nonetheless.
Yeah, I
because
can't-
no one
yeah,
knows.
I
No one
can't
knows
tell
what
you.
the market's going to do.
I can't tell
It's
you.
a loaded question, and whatever you say, you're going to be wrong. So.
Follow the show, and you'll see where they're at every single week.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool. So now I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Is the market going to continue to be crazy like it was in 2015?
Such a tough question.
Is it a
too.
crystal ball question?
It's pretty much a crystal ball
correct.
question. But based on some data, you can actually go, well, supply and demand is still completely out of whack. We still have too many people that want to buy, too many people that are renting that don't want to rent, not enough homes that are actually for sale, and because of that, prices are going up, rents are going up. No one wants to rent, basically. I mean, some people do, but
Okay.
a lot of people don't want to rent anymore. So I do see the market being somewhat crazy. Hopefully, it's not as insane as it was last, like I said earlier, April through September. Hopefully, it cools down somewhat because that was just crazy. But people were still buying houses even at that point. So even if it does go back to that, obviously, we are a good team. We know how to help people out
Yeah.
to get them into a home, but you can make it. So anyways, I tend to be more on the conservative side. So if I was going to say kind of a prediction on appreciation, which I will actually answer this question, Dan, unlike you will, since I'm like that.
Jab.
I love doing that.
Yeah.
Just a little jab, right hook real quick.
Well, you got it.
Yeah,
I mean, pro.
what I do, I think in the North Seattle neighborhoods that are the most popular, and then on the east side in those popular neighborhoods as well, it's probably going to be between 7 and 11%,
Okay.
potentially, maybe 7 to 9, more
Okay.
realistically. And some of the other predictions out there are kind of around that same thing.
Okay.
So that's where I'm at.
Well, so I got to ask you this. So let's go back to 2014. What we saw in 2015, just this last year, you said it was insane from April to September.
Yep.
And I can vouch for that. I was down in the
you
trenches
know.
with you. Was it like that in 2014? I don't remember. I
It
thought
wasn't as crazy.
Okay.
It was at the time we thought it was crazy,
Okay.
but not comparatively.
But it wasn't like 2015.
No.
So we could say 2015 may have been an anomaly. So it may calm down just a little this year.
Yeah, I think that's more likely what's going to happen.
Big, huge question. You're gonna get hit with this. I know we're gonna get emails on this from listeners. Is there a bubble? Is this the making of a bubble?
I don't think so. I don't think it's a bubble. There's a different economy now. There's a lot of high-paying jobs. Loans aren't insane
Yeah.
where you have to
Yeah.
just be breathing to get a loan. It's not easy to get a loan sometimes. So you actually have to qualify. So I don't think so.
Okay. You asked me to put together this quick report. Okay. Let's say you decide not to purchase right now and you decide to wait a year. What does that look like? On a $500,000 house, real quickly, it is a difference in $542 a month based off of where rates are projected to be against where rates are at right now.
Wow.
And here's the kicker. The savings over 5 years, $35,000.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So if you need to buy a home and you're looking to buy a home, find it.
Yeah,
Find it.
exactly.
Now's a good
Make it
time.
happen.
No time's better than now. And I'm not saying that to sell you on a home.
So I was teasing earlier at the beginning of the show about my favorite Mexican restaurant. We actually talk about it all the time on the show.
Yeah.
Good old Cactus.
Yep.
So they actually they're in Madison Park, and we were going to kind of focus on the Madison Park neighborhood because it's a great place to live, and they are there. And Cactus is actually they've been around for 25 years. Wow. And it all started at that Madison Park location, but now they're actually in South Lake Union, which is where we have our classes. It's in Bellevue Square, Alki Beach, Kirkland, and they're doing a cool thing now where they're doing more of a party pickup service, and it is just awesome. I've done it. I use it all the time, actually, for some of our parties that we throw where we cater it.
Yep.
We just call them up, say, hey, I want to use your stuff. They do family style. It just makes it really, really easy. So
Cactus.
check them out. Cactus. Yep. They're awesome.
To contact the show or for more information, visit SeattleRealEstateRadio.com. That's SeattleRealEstateRadio.com. And be sure to tune in again next Monday at 3 for more Seattle Real Estate Radio with your hosts, Christian Nossum and Dan Keller, mortgage expert with New American Funding, right here on Business Radio 1300 KKOL.